度もやってみましょう。
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed that ASMR experience in Celica, my 1977 Toyota Celica. And man, it really is a joy to drive this car, but there are still some bugs to work out. It's not perfect yet. I think it's a work of art to look at, and it's a very special feeling to be in that car, hearing Beamsy make those glorious noises. But on the racetrack, there's some struggles. So why don't we jump in and go for a lap where I'm actually talking and I can tell you a little bit more about the good and the bad. Actually, before we get to the track action, we want to update you on a couple of things that we forgot to show you in the mad thrash to get this car ready to go to the track. including the fact that we installed this front racing jacket from Toy Garage. It is designed for the flat nose, although there was some confusion initially. We thought maybe we got the slant nose version. This is the right racing jacket, and it's meant to sit up quite far. So it sort of hooks on to the leading edge of the hood here. But we decided we liked the way it looked pushed further back in this opening. So rather than using their brackets that bolt on here and then to this filler panel, we came up with a fairly creative solution where it actually wedges in there really tightly on either side. And then we built some little brackets and stoppers to prevent it from moving backward and forward once it's wedged in there. And it's done a lot of street miles, and as you'll see shortly, track miles, and it's worked really well. It's very secure. So the only downside to this is that we can't pivot it out of the way of the hood when we open the hood, so we physically have to remove it, which isn't difficult, but all in all, I think it's a really good solution. It doesn't require any drilling or harming of the body or anything like that. So, and I love the way it looks. I think it looks super cool, especially at the racetrack. I've noticed that the hood moves around less with it's on there, so it is definitely doing something aerodynamically. And the other thing we forgot to mention were the brake pads. We swapped in a set of Hawk DTC 30s front and rear because of how touchy the brake pedal is in this car. We were hoping to try a slightly milder compound than the Wilwoods that I had in there to see if that gives me better modulation, better brake travel. And you'll find out if that was the case or not after I do that track test shortly. We'd also like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Fantic, who makes this X8 Apex tire inflator. As you can see, it's extremely compact and lightweight. It only weighs 1.87 pounds, but it has a 7,800 milliamp battery in it, capable of inflating up to 6 automotive tires. It also has modes for inflating bicycle tires, balls, and other inflatables, or you can set it in manual mode and set the PSI to your desired inflation pressure like I have here. It even comes with a light on top, which you could use to, at night if you're having to change a flat tire or something like that. And what I like best about it is just how compact and sleek the design is. I can put it in the glove box or in the center console of any of my cars, and I know if I have to change tire pressures at the racetrack or have a tire losing pressure on the street, this will help me get to where I'm going. So why don't we hook it up here and show you how it works. So there you go. As you can see, it added 3 PSI in just a matter of seconds. It is a very powerful unit. In fact, it's about 45% faster to fill things than their competition. So it is a very efficient unit. And if you'd like one, they're very affordable, and we have a discount code for $40 off in the description below. All right, fellas, I'm gonna roll up the window here so you can hear me. It's a nice warm day here at TMP. And as you can see, I do need to open the door the window to go up, otherwise it sticks on the seal there. I think it's just a new seal issue, but anyway, let's make some noises. So here's problem number one. The brakes are so touchy that when I try to heel and toe, I put a little extra pressure on the brakes and it makes me sort of, jerk forward and slow the car too much. So it's a combination of pedal location, me being too close to the pedals. That's a little bit better. With some seat time, I think I can drive around it to some extent, but the brakes are just way too touchy still. We've put a restrictor in the vacuum source to the booster, try to turn them down a bit. We've changed pads, obviously you know that already. These Hawks are better for modulation than the Wilwoods were, but they're still too touchy. Like you can see, to get any consistent, smoothness on the braking pedal is just really difficult. And I'm not sure why. It could be that the big brake kit and our, the combination of the big brake kit and our master cylinder, which we also tried a different one. We've gone down to a 13/16 from a 1-inch, hoping that would give us better pedal feel and travel and modulation and all that. But we've maybe made, a 5% improvement with that and restricting the vacuum source a bit, but it's still way too touchy. So honestly, I think we're gonna have to try a much milder pad, but the problem there is we're gonna then overheat the pad in a lap or two. So I'm really not sure what the solution is. But when you get to listen to Beamsy, it makes it feel feel better about weird brakes, that's for sure. It's really in the heavy braking zones where it's trickiest, right? Because you want to have a good feel for that downshift. Issue, of course, is I'm just too close to the pedals. I don't mind the distance I'm from the steering wheel. I like being close to the steering wheel, but the pedals are too close, so I'm also struggling a bit with the heel and toe because I'm in a very, bent knee position. I'm not able to heel and toe with my heel on the floor. I'm kind of having to float my right foot on the pedal and flip that way. So ergonomically, it's not great yet either, but I don't know, maybe I put some tilt-in firewall mounted pedals in and that solves all of the braking issues in one fell swoop. That might be the way to go, but on the upside, the car feels really good otherwise. It feels very stable. It's not loose. It might be a little tight. I can adjust that, of course, with these NX coilovers, or I should say the dampers, really. I could, put a bit more rear damping in it to try to loosen it up. But I'm just shaking it down right now, guys, so I'm not gonna, do any stunt driving here for you. But man, it does feel grippy and stable. These Continental Extreme Contact Sport O2s feel very, very sticky. You can hear the rear brakes sort of dragging a bit because they're brand new and the pads are, at full thickness. Quite bumpy through turn one there, but the car still feels very stable over those bumps. So, I overcooked that braking zone a bit because it's just so hard to modulate and gauge the brakes. But if I chuck it in here, you can see the car is real sticky. It's not understeering really; it's surprisingly neutral. A little bit of push there on power, but I'd say right now it has just a hair of understeer in it, but it's not, the kind of understeer where you're going to plow off the track. It feels very manageable, so it would be easy to switch it to an oversteer balance, I think, just with a bit of damper tuning and maybe a little bit of alignment tuning as well. But overall, I'm really happy with the way the car's driving. All right, guys, the brakes are smelling grumpy, so I'm going to cool it down here. And I don't know if you can really hear the rear brakes dragging there or not, but as they get hot, they do sort of drag a little, which that'll fix itself. Woo! Anyway, what a feeling to finally get Connie out here on TMP, ripping some decent hot laps, really feeling what the car's balance is like, feeling beamsy in a safe, unrestricted environment where I can give it the full power up deep into fourth gear on the front straight here. And I guess the other thing I should mention is fourth gear in this gearbox is not very happy. It does grind if you try to rush the shift at all. You basically have to just put the lightest bit of pressure and let it fall into fourth gear. So it's quite a slow shift. To try to rush it at all, it just grinds. So it's certainly a synchro issue. And I do have another gearbox from that G1 Beams engine that was originally in Connie, and I don't remember it having any synchro issues, so relatively easy fix would just be to swap that gearbox in there. But disappointing that this newer G5 gearbox has that issue. But if you've watched the series from the very beginning, you would have seen that it had a different shifter turret on it, and there was some sealant on it that didn't look OE. So I kind of get the feeling that when our buddy Ryan bought this engine and transmission combination, that this gearbox had been apart before, probably maybe not even the original gearbox for this G5 version of the Beams engine. So it is what it is when you buy a used engine. These things happen, and I'm certainly not blaming Ryan. It's just the luck of the draw when you buy used engines and trannies. So we do have an easy fix there. The whole, brake touchiness and ergonomics of the pedals being too close, that's a more challenging fix. But as I mentioned, I think maybe firewall mounted tilt pedals would give me both the adjustability with the balance bar to get the pedal feel the way I want it, and would get the pedals further away from me, because there's a lot of room behind these OEM pedals to the firewall. Not sure why Toyota mounted them so far forward, but there's like, I don't know, a good 8 to 10 inches behind these pedals. So maybe there's a fix there. The other fix, of course, would be to move the seat back, but with the roll bar where it is, that's a whole other thing. Like, we would have to cut out the harness bar and the crossbar, move the seat back, you know, weld in a bent harness bar and crossbar. It would, you know, it would bigger effort. So I think I'd rather start with the pedals and see if we can get that tuned better, and try some milder pads and see if that gives me better pedal feel. But anyway, I'm able to safely lap, as you can see. It's not like it's a safety issue. It's just a feel issue and a confidence issue. And if you've ever taken a car on the racetrack, you know that brake feel is critical to confidence and really being able to, you know, attack braking zones and heel and dough confidently and do all those kinds of race car things. So there you go, guys. A couple of laps in Connie around TMP. She sounds glorious. She looks glorious. Still needs a little bit of tuning, but she's going to Grid Life Midwest Festival, and I am going to take some passengers for ride-alongs there. They're just going to have to accept the fact that I'm not blitzing the braking zones. Well, that is a wrap on this driving and track testing video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I know I did. And as far as how Connie has performed, I mean, first of all, let's just all acknowledge this is a work of art. This is a thing of beauty. Every time I lay eyes on it, I fall in love with it all over again. So aesthetically, I could not be happier with the way this build has turned out. And the way the beams makes power and makes sound, man, it is a glorious thing. So that combination of this sexy chassis and that powertrain really is a wonderful thing. And as for the rest of it goes, I mean, very pleased with how the suspension behaved out there. I didn't have any contact with tires in, you know, wheel wells. I didn't have any clunking from spherical bearings. The annex coilovers worked extremely well around here, and this is a fairly bumpy track. There's the bump in turn 1 this year. Whew, this is my first time here this year, and man, it is really bumpy in turn 1, but it handled it extremely well. And the brakes work well. They slow the car very well, but as I mentioned, pretty much my whole in-car conversation was about how touchy the brake is and how bad the ergonomics is for me to heel and toe. So a lot of work to do there, but it's all solvable. So with more time, you know, more money and more effort, we can make this the ultimate street and track car. And that'll happen, you know, in the next 5 to 6 years. It's taken us 6 years to get to this point, and I'm sure perfection is going to take a little while longer. But man, I am pumped on the amount of progress we've made. I mean, I fully enjoy driving it on the street now, and I had a blast driving it on the track. It just needs a little bit of, you know, fine tuning, as any bespoke from the ground up built car is going to need. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all the positive comments on YouTube, on social media, and thank you for everyone who's helped on this build. It really has been a community build in a lot of ways. The Celica community has been amazing. I've gotten parts and information from so many key people in that community, and of course, I've gotten a ton of free labor from the guy behind the camera, Peter and Moose and Ken and you know, Tim at Industry Garage. It's just, the list goes on and on. I can't thank everyone here because I frankly won't remember you all, but wow, pumped to have this car running and driving on the street, plated. So thanks again for watching, everyone. And by the way, we are at Grid Life Midwest right now. So if you jump on their live stream, you may catch some footage of Connie out there giving people ride-alongs. And if you're at the festival, come by, say hi, check her out. And during their grip and drift taxi sessions, we are actually going to give fans ride-alongs in Connie, as long as you know, she can take the heat. So check us out there, or check us out on the internet.